Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I can't understand why people are such jerks. How can a person you love and cherish can one day be the best thing of your life and the next day turn into something that causes you pain and suffering? My boyfriend from high school cheated on me once we were in college. At that time, I was naive and stupid, and it took me a long time to accept that my gut feeling was not wrong and that all my suspicions about my boyfriend were actually true. Once I decided to act on this feeling, I confronted him about his relationship with one of his friends from the same course he was pursuing. Of course, he denied having anything to do with her and told me I'm mistaken. He said to me, I'm projecting my insecurities, and if I want to have a healthy relationship, I need to build some trust. Because I was such an idiot back then, I trusted him and let it go. About a year later, I found out from a guy who shared some of the classes with both me and my boyfriend that my boyfriend had dated a girl from his course briefly. I was devastated. I cried my heart out that night, but still decided to not pursue it since that relationship of his wasn't serious and it had ended months ago. I thought, what's the point of fighting over something that doesn't even exist anymore? And just forgave him. That was the only time I turned a blind eye to his disloyalty. I continued to pretend that everything between us was fine, and eventually I forgot about him cheating on me. Years later, after we both graduated and started building a career, he proposed to me. He told me I'm the only one for him and wants to spend the rest of his life by my side. I was beyond happy. In that moment, all I remembered was my high school love, who has been with me for all those years, and how I can actually live a good life by his side. I said yes, and we got engaged. But of course, no matter how much you try to pretend things are all right and that people who make mistakes can change, the truth is that someone who's addicted will always go back to the drink. That's what happened to me. I was living together with my fiance when one night I came home late because of overtime at work. When I went into the bedroom, my fiance was asleep. I quickly took a shower and went by his side to give him a kiss, when I noticed his phone had several messages and missed calls. Normally, I wouldn't think of snooping around his things or going through his phone, but the message on the screen was flashing and I read its contents. It was from a number saved as Max Client in his phone. I was really confused because the message read, I love you. Let's go out on a lunch date tomorrow. Now, why would a client named Max send my fiance a lunch date text? I was very confused and curious about what was going on, so I took his phone and used his fingers to open the lock. I went through the chat with Max and figured out that my fiance was cheating on me. Suddenly, I was hit by deja vu and remembered how I never said anything about him cheating on me during college and how I allowed this to happen to myself. I was so heartbroken that I packed some of my essential stuff and left the house. I didn't talk to my fiance for a few days, and finally, when we talked about it, we ended up breaking up. That was the end of that chapter for me, and I thought I'd never have to see his face again. If only I knew how wrong I was. It's been about 6 months since me and my ex-fiance split up. Now I live with my mom since I'm the only one she has except for my sister who works in a different state. Last week, my sister came home and the person she brought with her to our house was none other than my ex-fiance. I was so shocked to see him standing in our driveway that I couldn't even think of saying something. I was standing there dumbstruck while my sister invited him in. Once I was able to collect myself, I went into the living room and asked my sister what was going on. For the love of God, I couldn't figure out why my own sister would invite my ex-fiance into this house when she is fully aware of our history. Nothing came into my mind, no matter how hard I racked my brains. Then my sister said something that almost gave me a heart attack. She told me that the guy wasn't there for me, but for her. She told me that they have been dating for about a year and a half now, and she wanted to formally introduce him to our family as her boyfriend and not just my ex-fiance. To say that her words were a slap on my face would be an understatement. I only asked her if she was the Max guy whose chat I found on my ex-fiance's phone, and she confirmed that it was her. She told me that she had fallen for him a long time ago, but couldn't do anything since I was the one dating him. But after we got engaged, she couldn't just forget about him and decided to confess to him. And if he would have rejected her, she would have moved on with her life. But to her complete surprise, he started dating her, and gradually they had fallen so deeply in love with each other that her guilt of betraying her sister was overpowered by her love for him. I couldn't believe the crap she was spouting. What a load of bullshit that was. I told him to get out of my house, but he told me that he really loves my sister and plans to be with her for a long time. He said that no matter what our history was, I shouldn't interfere with his current relationship since we've been done for a while. The audacity of this absolute a-hole to date my own sister and come to my house. That's when my mom walked into the room and I told her everything that was going on. I told her how my sister was the one who betrayed me and dated my ex-fiance. I told her how they are here because they love each other and want to formally introduce themselves as a couple. I asked my mom to talk some sense into my sister since she wouldn't listen to me, and also kick that cheating bastard out of the house. But to think my mom would actually take his side? She turned to me and asked me to calm down. She told me that if they want to date each other, they are free to do so, and I have no say in what my sister does in her life. She said that I had my chance and I wasted it. She said that the guy was financially well off, and if he marries into the family, they'll be well looked after. She said since I couldn't do anything much in my life and only survive off of a monthly salary, and because I also failed to keep a man who could be good for this family, I was a disappointment and won't deserve any say in this matter. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. To think the only reason I was living here was because my mom was old and somebody needed to be near her to look after her, and this was what she thought of me? I was furious and speechless. I just walked out of the house and crashed at a friend's place that night. I did go back home the next morning to pick up some of my stuff and found all three of them laughing around the kitchen having breakfast. All the hurt and anger came rushing back, and I packed a quick bag and left my home. Since then, I haven't gone back, and I don't know how to proceed in this situation. That jerk who cheated on me is sure to cheat on my sister too. Would I be an a-hole if I just leave them be and not do anything about the current situation? Does my family even deserve my concerns to begin with? I went back to my home a few days ago. Since it has been 2 weeks from the time of my original post, I had a lot of time to think about my course of action. I decided that I don't want to be labeled as a failure, and if my own mom thinks my current working lifestyle is a disappointment, there is no need for me to cater to her needs. That's why I was going to leave my house and look for a rental place to temporarily stay at. When I went back home, my sister and that bastard of an ex-fiance had already left the house. My mom was alone, and as soon as I was done packing my stuff, I told her about my decision. I told her I'd be leaving her here, and she can ask her other daughter to take care of her, since she is such a successful person with a rich boyfriend. I thought for a second that my mom might apologize or ask me to stay, but she just looked at me and shrugged. She told me to do whatever I wanted. I got so angry at her lack of care that I immediately left. I don't plan to go back there ever again. I have applied for a promotion at my company that would require me to take over a different location of our company. When I finally move from this state and leave all the memories behind, I'll be cutting all my ties to my family. I don't want a sister that slept with the person I was about to marry. There is too much pain in that relationship, and I don't think I can ever bring myself to forgive her or forget how my mom told me I was a disappointment for living with her and looking after her. Currently, my friends are helping me to not go into a depressive state, and they keep me company on weekends. I'm grateful for them, and hopefully, they'll be a better family to me than my own blood ever was. NTA, I don't think you're the a-hole here. You don't deserve a sister like that, and I would never call a person who would steal my fiancée as my sister. I don't think you could have seen that coming, and when your own family betrays you, there is no way to completely heal from it. I hope you can get someone in life who actually values you. NTA, you're not an a-hole here. I hate your ex-fiancé, and I hope he gets karma for what he did to you. To think he'll go after your own sister is such a disgusting thought. I just can't believe a mother would say such horrible things to their own daughter. Unfortunately, such discrimination in families is very common. I, 47 male, have a daughter, 19 female, who is in the class of 2022. Over the years, I have set aside a college fund for her, enough for any decent 4-year university. She has been pretty indecisive about what she wants to do after high school, and I understand. It's a wildly young age to completely know what you want to do for the rest of your life. So when she said she wanted to take some time off for college, I was all for it, hoping she'd take the time to think things over. She came to my wife and me yesterday and said next semester she wants to go to school. I said, great, and started asking the standard questions like what she decided to study and where she wanted to go. She had no answer for either of the questions. I told her if she's still unsure the whats and wheres of her decision, she should maybe think about taking her general eds at the local community college to save money and not waste her time. To note, I will give her any money not used in her college fund after she graduates for a down payment or for some getting started money, depending on how much is left over. She was resistant to the idea of community college and insisted she wants to go to a 4-year. I told her that I don't want her going to a 4-year just to waste her time. I told her that I was unsure of what I wanted to do when I went to a 4-year and ended up taking classes I didn't need to and having to spend time making classes up that I should have been taking years before. I don't want her to be in the same situation I was. I told her if she wants to go to a 4-year, that's fine. But if she doesn't have a set goal in mind, then I'm not paying for it. If she decides what field she wants to go into, then I would be happy to do it. If she doesn't know what she wants to do but still wants to take classes, then I am more than happy to pay for those. But I'm not going to waste my money for her to mess around for a couple of years. She is also welcome to take more time to think about things before going to college, as the money isn't going anywhere and we are in no hurry to push her out of the nest. She wasn't too thrilled about my conditions and begged me to pay for a 4-year. I told her that I will not do that, but I gave her other options to pick from. I reassured her that I loved her and ended the conversation at that. My wife agrees with me, but is overall more sympathetic to our daughter. I said she is welcome to take all the time she needs, and I've been more than generous with her. AITA? NTA, universities are overpriced for the value received. This will probably be unpopular, but I think YTA. There's a reason you don't usually have to declare a major until halfway through college. You're not supposed to go in knowing exactly what you want to do at 18. There are gen ed requirements and time to explore different electives and find your path. And you do it in an academic environment where everyone you live and socialize with is doing the same thing. You set this money aside for her, and I think she should be allowed to decide what to do with it. Give her advice, but don't force her to take a path she doesn't want to. It's your money, so I guess your decision how it's spent, but I'd like to give you some food for thought. I was very sure when I went to a 4-year, very expensive, private, college what I wanted to major in. However, once I started those classes, I realized it wasn't actually for me and switched majors. If I had not been in that 4-year environment, exposed to all of those opportunities, I wouldn't have known what I wanted to really major in. I've had a lot of people ask me why I didn't do my core classes at a community college, but honestly, being immersed in the varied academic setting of the 4-year was invaluable. Maybe your daughter needs exposure to all of the possibilities to help her narrow her focus. In my experience, that doesn't happen on the same level at a community college. Very soft NTA. My son, 7, and my husband had a camping, fishing trip planned for this weekend. It's through my husband's work and is a big event, and so they cannot reschedule. My son came down with a nasty cough, so unfortunately, it doesn't seem like a good idea for him to go. This is where the conflict starts. My husband still wants to go and wants my mom to watch over our kids. We also have a 2-year-old who is not sick, while I have to work. I can tell that my mom is not comfortable with this, and ultimately, I feel like our sick child is not her responsibility. My husband insists he isn't contagious, and while I agree, allergies are running rampant here and he has asthma, we don't know that for certain. I told my husband if he's too sick to camp, he's too sick to be left alone with my mom. That he's his dad and he has to make sacrifices because that is what we signed up for as parents. My husband is upset. First, he told me that I should stay home from work to care for our son. This is not an option. I absolutely can't miss any more work, as I have too many points against me already. I'm 8.5 months pregnant and have had to miss a lot due to complications. He yelled at me that I hate my job anyway, so what does it matter? Obviously, my paycheck matters, or I would have quit instead of forcing myself to work through my pregnancy. He just kept yelling at me about how he was just going to go and I could figure it out, and then switched and said he'd stay at home, but he's just going to work the whole weekend to make things harder on me. I told him I understand he's disappointed and I was sorry, but that's the way he was talking to me was unacceptable. His dad, he needs to make sacrifices. That our 7-year-old is gutted he can't go. But he is handling it better than my grown adult husband. I honestly feel awful that neither of them can go. I completely understand this is upsetting for my husband, but I still don't feel I deserve to be treated like this. He wants me to try and convince my mom to watch our son, and I just don't feel comfortable with that. AITA for making my husband miss out on his trip? NTA, how are you having another baby with this man? He doesn't even want to take care of the two he has. I understand he's been looking forward to the trip, but if that's more important than his sick child and heavily pregnant wife, he's got his priorities mixed up. You're 8.5 months pregnant. You're so close in your pregnancy, you could basically go into labor at any stage. So, him going away, regardless of your sick child, is selfish in itself. NTA, if he wants to go so bad, he should figure out what to do with your sick child, not his 8-month pregnant partner. And he doesn't need to include your mother in that search. I've had to check my guy for this kind of thing. Not often, thankfully, but it does happen. That being said, if he's going to behave like a child, you should treat him like one. I do that, everyone. If you talk to me like a child, I will parent you. I've looked at my guy when he tried to pick a fight and just said, when you can talk to me like a year old man, we can finish this, but I will not stand here and watch you behave worse than your kids. And then I walk away from him, and it's strangely effective. I've been known to send him to his room. I've taken things away. It makes him feel bad, but we're in our 30s. And if I wanted to talk to a 9-year-old, we have one right in the house available to fight at the drop of a dime. NTA, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with your husband? A grown-ass man pouting and crying because he has to miss out on one goddamn camping trip that, I'm assuming, was originally planned to be a father-son trip in the first place. Now his son is sick, and God forbid the parent helps take care of their own child. The nerve of him to try and push the entire responsibility off to you or the grandma stinks of sexism to me. And the fact that he said he would purposely work during the weekend to make things harder for you. A loving, considerate partner would never do shit like that, especially to their heavily pregnant wife. OP, you are completely justified. Your husband is acting like a whiny, entitled, petty child. Unbelievable.